let's start by just cutting this cube in half, as is the tradition. So I'm going to go into face. No, I'm not. I'm going to go into the vertex modes in edit mode and then go Control R to make a loop cut down the middle here. And I'm going to go to the face mode, pressing 3. Oh, I'm just going to turn on that thing to show what I'm actually doing. Hey, Shafarius, how's it going, dude? So I'm going to delete half of these faces. I'm going to go back to object mode and then put a modifier on here of mirror, as is the tradition. Wait, what? Did I? Oh, I'm on the y-axis. Whoops. Whoopsie doodle. Oh, let me just Control Z. So cut down the middle. Go to face mode. Cool. Tell me about your project. So we should want to make sure we've got clipping turned on so that the middle will kind of stick together like that. And then I'm just going to try and make a basic body shape to start with. So I'm going to add some cuts in here. Maybe I'll add 2. When you do a loop cut by pressing Control R, you can also press a number after that to give you like that many cuts in total, which can be quite useful. So I'm just pressing G to drag these in a bit. He's gonna have like a skinny, muscular kind of physique. That's the impression I get from this reference image that the AI made. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with his lower half yet. Maybe it will be kind of fully human. I'm not sure. I haven't decided yet. Oh, sounds cool. Have you been doing game dev for long? So just adding a loop cut to the side here to give him a bit more of a rounded 3D look. I would say try and add as little loop cuts as possible, especially when you're doing this kind of low poly stuff, at least until you've got a nice silhouette, because sometimes you can get a really nice silhouette with very few polys. And I think the point is to make the silhouette look really believable, even at a low poly. And if you've done that, you probably succeeded in creating something good aesthetically in this style. Not the expert on it, just what I've heard. Okay. Yeah, I was kind of on and off when I was younger, and then a few years ago I just kind of threw myself fully into it, and since then I haven't really had an off point, which is nice because I feel like I've finally figured out what I want to do, you know. Before then I was very indecisive about what I really wanted out of my work life. But when I do game dev, it doesn't feel like work, so yeah. Hey Jimmy. Yeah, I heard about that stuff with the merger. I don't know what to think of it, but I don't know if it's worth bailing for me. I would have bailed ship to Godot quite a while ago if it was a bit more fully featured. Although as soon as it's like up to the standard, I would definitely move over, I reckon. Although I'm not a big fan of the Python style scripting. You're right, Jimmy. Okay. What you been doing? Yeah, I'm the same. It's a shame, like, there's so many kind of... Unity has a lot of cool aspects to it because it really feels like a sandbox, and that's what I like about it. It feels like you're just kind of left with the tools, and it's up to you to make the kind of architecture of your game. Unreal is more like, this is how we want you to do things, so do it this way, and you won't have as much pain as if you're trying to reinvent the wheel. But with Godot, it's like, yeah, we're the open source ones, and I'm quite into open source software usually, so it's not like I'm hating on it or something. I'm just waiting for it to be a bit more fleshed out before I move over there. So I'm just extruding the edges, well, extruding the legs out, and I'm just turning clipping off so that they don't stick together at the bottom there, and then I'll turn it back on. You're making grass. How does one make grass? Oh, I get it. You're talking about game dev. Of course, that thing that I'm doing too. Like, Unity's done some really strange things, like business decision wise. At least it seems like it from an outside perspective. Like, the plastic integration has caused me more headaches than I'd like to think about. And it does feel like that sometimes. It really pissed me off with the plastic thing, because it was like, they basically said, you have to switch over to this source control, otherwise you just can't use collaborate anymore. At least that's what I took out of it. And it's like, what the fuck? Just felt like it was out of nowhere. And I'm just adding loop cuts here to try and define the shape of the legs a little. Although his knees are a bit much. I have a tendency of making my characters having long arms and short legs, so I'm going to try and avoid that with this guy. So I'm going to get the basic shape of the body done first, and then that way I can focus on that big gnarly head, which is going to be like the main part, the main focus, I guess. So here I selected this edge and pressed Control B in order to get a bevel like that, because I want to have this as like an arm slot, but I don't really want to create another edge, so it just adds some triangles on either side for us like that. So this is going to be the shoulder. Just extruding out a couple of times. I'm thinking I'm going to have this as a fully connected model where all of the different parts are just part of one model, and then we do the weight painting and stuff. I mean, I've been doing a bit of, well, I mainly model where the characters, you know, have separate limbs and stuff. But in this case, I feel like I want to give it a go with the whole thing as one object. It depends on what textures, really. If it's like environment stuff, I would usually find some textures. If it's like creatures and stuff like that, I'll paint them myself. That's my favorite part. I'm gonna do it T-pose this time because no, actually I'm not modeling T-pose because I want to make sure the shoulder joint's gonna be okay here. So yeah, like, yeah, I always do texture painting. It's like, I suck at painting on a 2D plane, but I seem to have a bit of a knack for painting on 3D kind of surfaces. 3D surfaces? Does that make sense? Yeah. Maybe. Like, my friend Micro Games, he does everything with like, well, not everything, but he does a lot of stuff in like Photoshop, and it's like I just can't work like that. I think in the industry people do more like that versus texture painting, but I'm not sure how it is like these days, to be honest. Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for watching. So let's give his feet a bit of definition here. I don't know if these are gonna bend. How do you cope with ugly texture seams? Well, if you got seams like that, so if you reduce it down to a really low resolution and then you've got seams, like, one way to do it is to make sure your islands are bigger. So when you're unwrapping everything, if you've got islands that are too close together and they overlap, or even if they're close to, the pixel bleed around the outside of the island could make it go onto that and ruin it. Another thing is to make sure that when you're texture painting, you're painting on the desired resolution. Don't paint in a high resolution and then downscale it to like 256 by 256, because if you do that, you can end up with really noticeable seams. You can also you can decrease or increase the bleed amount when you're texture painting. I'm not sure if it's here. Hang on. Options. Yeah, you can set the bleed. So the more you put the bleed up, basically the more it will go outside of the island. So if you're having textures where you're seeing the seams quite a lot, try increasing the bleed and it could give you a bit of extra coverage around the outside. So that's all the tips off the top of my head. All right. Trying to straighten these out a little so that they don't look too off. I think it's good to make things nice and square. Big paint is having large pixels, but the pixels don't like... Well, that's why it's good to think about where your seams are going to be beforehand. What the fuck did I do here? Like, if you gonna say. Hang on. I'm gonna have to get this out again. Ari, where is it? So this is the Resident Evil model viewer. I open this a lot to show people stuff. If you have a look on his face here, right? Let me change the render modes. Right, have a look. See the pixels, they don't match up because this is a seam. Nowadays, people would probably put the seams in a different place, maybe. Like on the back of the head, like you've got one here actually. See? You got a lovely old seam. Try not to get too perfectionist about the seams, because they were in a lot of old games, but you didn't notice it, I guess, because like in Resident Evil 2, you totally can't get to, you can't even move Leon to a place close to the screen where you'll actually see his pixels to, well, let me just show you. It's quite interesting. Hey Pappy, how's it going? Like, before you get to the front of this, of a camera angle, it'll always change. And these games were played on CRT TVs, so like they didn't want you to see the pixels up close anyway. Anyway, I won't get distracted. Yeah, doing pretty good. Yeah, I'd like to try Substance Painter. But monster gotta have a thick booty, although that's his leg, but same thing, right? I guess your butt is part of your leg. You can quote me on that. If a subscription model is like cheap enough. Hey dude, how's it going, Chris? I'm not actually going to do too much of the muscular definition on the model itself. I'm going to leave that for the texture painting. By the way, if you don't know, quickly switching to the wireframe or X-ray modes, you can do it with Alt-Z, which can be handy. Right, I need to make this shoulder joint a bit nicer though. Oh, yeah. Thanks again for the coffee, by the way, Chris, on my Buy Me a Coffee. Also, while I'm here, I want to say thanks to Jordan S, who also bought me a coffee. 2 Foot Sheep for the 3 coffees, and Madeline for the 5. Yeah, while it's in my mind, because I always forget to do that stuff, but I really appreciate that. Okay. Cheers, man. Yeah, I'm thinking, well, if my partner likes this, maybe this will be used in Lake Haven. Not the prequel, but the main game. Because it kind of fits in the themes of that game. Right, made a right mess of this. Okay. So how am I going to fix this? I got some overlapping vertices here. If you want to get rid of, if you notice that you've got stuff on top of each other like that, what you can do is press A to select all the vertices. Go to mesh. Go down to, oh god damn it. Actually, I don't even need to use this menu. Just go press M for merge and then by distance, and then it will tell you how many vertices got removed. And as you can see, it's better now. So another thing you can do is if you hold Control and click while you have a vertex selected, you can make a new vertex. And now I'm just going to make a face out of these by selecting all 4 corners. Wait, what? Pressing F. Then I'll do the same for this one here. And I'll make a face out of this. And also a face out of this back face here. I'm going to smooth shade from now on because I got like a basic shape down. So select wait, shade smooth. Make sure I got the object selected. Wow, his boot is already looking thick. Yeah. Yeah. How much does the Substance Painter subscription cost? Just gonna bring his chest out a little bit. Okay, now I'm gonna get started on that. I'm gonna get started on that gnarly head of his. So this I'm gonna make as a should I make it as a separate object? I'm gonna make it as a separate object for now, and then maybe later I'll connect the two. But I don't know, actually, it's probably best that I don't. No, I'm gonna do it for now. I'm gonna add a cube. I'm gonna name these now as well. Just call this body. And then gonna call this head. So to get this image from the AI, I searched half man, half snake, and this is what came back. No, you know what? I'm gonna do it all from the body, because he's gonna be like pretty damn asymmetrical anyway. Let's just make his forearms a little bigger. Okay. That looks nice. Yeah, with DALL-E Mini. That's the one. So, right now I'm going to apply a modifier because I don't want to mirror anymore. His chest is actually going to end up a bit distorted, so... And I think I'm going to need to shift the geometry around a bit to achieve that effect. Right, so I actually don't need this neck. Yeah, that DALL-E Mini is awesome. You can just type anything. I put in there Shrek smoking weed. And it was really funny because it came up, it was like a picture of Shrek, but he had like the entire plant hanging out of his mouth rather than like a joint or whatever. So I quite enjoyed that. Okay. Okay, now this is going to move a lot, so I want to try and make sure I've got enough geometry there for it to be able to move. But then again, it's quite easy to add loop cuts in this kind of place later, so I shouldn't worry that much about it. Okay. I like how it's kind of... it almost comes out like straight away as a spiral, quite thick. So maybe I should make this a little bigger. Of course, it doesn't have to be exactly like it, but I do really like the design, and I don't feel like there's that much I want to change about it actually, so I'm going to try and get it pretty close to what I started with. But the only problem is that it's kind of paradoxical in the shape of it. It's not exactly... You know, it looks like, I don't know. It's with Sync Modeling Blender. Seems, what is the word? Empirical. Yeah. I have never used Maya because of the price tag. Yeah, the S. It's a weird, like, little quirk of those AI things, you know? That they seem to make strange geometry that couldn't be. In which ways would you say it's better and worse than Maya? So I'm just double clicking to get these connected looped faces. I always found it bizarre, like one of the like biggest software packages or just pieces of software, I should say, is the open source one. Although I think in the professional environment, it's much more common to see people using Maya and like 3ds Max and stuff like that, right? My first try at 3D stuff was when I was like maybe 12 or something, and I was using Cinema 4D. I don't know if that's still a thing. Probably. Yeah. And why do you want to move to Blender? I'll try a bit of proportional editing here. So if you haven't used it before, when you turn on proportional editing, and it works in several different factors in Blender, it will kind of move the pixels or vertices around the one you're moving or the group that you're moving in a... You can have it move them in a like linear fashion if you've got it on a linear, or you can have it on, well, any kind of curve you can think of. You can kind of adjust things that way. And it sometimes can be really useful. Flexibility in which sense? Oh yeah, you use that too, don't you, Jimmy? So at this point, I'm gonna make like this. I'm gonna kind of change the position of the flow here by extruding out here these faces, and that's how I'll get the shape that I want. And then I can round this off a little so that it looks a bit more... turn off proportional editing. So it looks a bit better. Things like oh, I see. So maybe it's a little bit more like flexible, or not flexible. That's what you said. Is it more intuitive, maybe? Because I think that's one thing that Blender is not for me. It's always been a slog learning stuff. And not every version, but sometimes they release a new version and it's like, oh, well, everything's broken for me now. Like, you know what I mean? Well, I can't really compare because I never used it. For me, like, I can model fairly quickly in Blender with the things that I want to do, but I have no reference point of other programs really, so... Right. I'm gonna actually, like, I want to rotate this head's kind of default position, but I don't exactly want to just stretch it like this, because I don't want to have that twist there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this entire top part, I think, and I'm gonna press Y to separate it. Then I'm gonna rotate it on the axis I want. And just once I'm done with that, I'll match the vertices back up. Because we'll have the same amount on each side, so it shouldn't really matter. Lost sound? Huh. Let me check that it's still on my end. Oh, it seems to be alright on my end. Well, I just realised you wouldn't hear that. Okay, so I'm going to press M, join at last. So I'm selecting the neck first and then the base to kind of stitch this back together. M at last. M at last. M at last. Okay. I'm gonna make this part of the neck thicker, I reckon. Okay, so let's try and get this shape a bit closer. Like I said, I don't want it to be identical, but I'm okay if it's pretty close. I realize a lot of this geometry is a bit jank. I'll straighten it out. There's probably some automatic processes you can do to straighten this kind of geometry out. I know there's the remesh thing, but I haven't really used it properly before. Kind of looks like a bird's head or something. Okay. He looks like his left arm goes down into kind of like a point. So maybe I'll have it just like that. And whoa, when did this happen to his leg? I don't know, but I actually think that can stay. It can be some weird just plant extrusion. And also, he's got this other stuff coming out of the front where it's peeling over, but I think I'm just going to do that in the texture painting part actually. Try and get this surface to a bit more a reasonable kind of look. Right now, geometry is a bit all over the shop. But I ain't afraid of no triangles. Especially with the way we render things. Okay. So how long have we been streaming already? It's been nearly 45 minutes. So I'm gonna kind of shift his torso just a bit over here. Just want to add a bit of asymmetry. Like if his head is like bursting out that side, maybe he would just be a little bit more shifted this side on his body. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'll just have his lower half more different in terms of the texture. But I'm just going to make a little hand for him on this side. My hands are usually not the most complicated. I like to go with the kind of mitteny kind of look, I guess. God, I'm glad that I do low poly stuff, because I can't imagine how difficult it must be doing a hand in any other style. Okay. Okay, so hang on a second. That thumb's looking a bit long there. Well, I'm definitely going to texture paint him today. At least get a good chunk of it done. I'm not sure if I'll have time to start on the rigging. Okay. So I'm going to start UV unwrapping him soon. I think because I'm trying to go kind of faster with this, I'm going to do a smart UV project and just make sure that things are relatively straight. I'm not interested in it being completely perfectly straight. Yeah, I watched it. I liked it. Don't know if I should. I sound like a robot? Oh, my microphone does that sometimes. One sec. How's that? Wait, is anyone here not seen the finale of Stranger Things? Maybe actually I'm just not gonna say anything out loud because I don't want to spoil it for anyone that might watch it on the playback. But yeah, I liked it. Okay, that's all I'm doing with the model for now. Maybe I'll change things later. Maybe I won't. Apart from this. Yeah, but it's just if someone watches it later. I don't have much to say anyway, I just liked it. Okay, if you haven't watched Stranger Things, close your ear holes for like 2 seconds. 3, 2, 1. It sucks that Eddie died. Okay. Okay, if you want to turn something like this into a point, you can press M and then at center and it will turn it into a point. Just gonna do a once over. Sometimes I see an edge and I'm like, does this edge really need to be here? This edge loop, I mean. Sometimes you can get away with getting rid of them. But in this case, I don't think I will. Don't need to get too like over the top about the low poly aspect. I think important thing is how it looks. And if it looks low poly, then I think it's more important than it being actually definitely 100% low poly. If you know what I mean. Yeah, kind of. I was kind of the same, to be honest. They're a bit annoying. Like, well, Will's actor just seemed kind of not that great compared to the rest of them, I guess. I found it difficult to care about him because, like, you know, there was the stuff in the first season with him, but he was like never actually there because it was all about them looking for him. And it's like I got the rest of their characters, but it's like I just never got attached to his character, you know? No. Just because I feel like he wasn't acting that well. Like when it was like some really intense part where he was doing a lot of shouting and crying, it just seemed so like hammy, you know? Okay. Okay, so I'm ready to start unwrapping this guy. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna make it. No, I'm gonna work with the stuff I have now. But I will make his lower half just a bit smaller. I'm from England originally. Okay, so yes, all good. Right, now Latvia, cool. Let me just put some more tunes on. I think I don't know that many people from Latvia, except one YouTuber called like oh, what's his name? What's his name? He's like one of these like people proposing the carnivore kind of diet and stuff, like raw carnivore diet. And he's like, the guy is crazy, but kind of entertaining. Like when he gets angry, he's like, "You motherfuckers, you must be stupid or something." And he's like, he's like, he's surprisingly charismatic for such a strange person, though. His name's Farage, I think. With a 3. Okay, so I'm gonna select all of this, and press Smart UV Project. Boom. Angle limit 90. So I don't like it when it like makes things kind of wonky, because it means the pixels will be wonky. So I might have to manually straighten it out. This is definitely not the best way of unwrapping every time, but if you're like, as long as you make the texture size big enough so that you've got some room to move stuff around and that, and I don't think it has to be such a big problem to unwrap with the Smart UV Project. Like, because of the way it's unwrapped it would be difficult for me to put this on a 256 by 256 image. Like, let me show you. So let's create a new image, 256 by 256. Let's call this Monster. Right. So if I put this, make a new material, just diffuse image texture, Monster, go to texture painting mode, Monster, change this to mix. Wait a sec. Oh, I need to assign it, right? Yeah, so in the tool mode, Monster. Let's have a look how these pixels come out. See, they're very big. Actually bigger than I want. Thanks. Yeah, I'm quite a fan of the early Final Fantasies. It's actually bigger than I want for this project, so I'm actually gonna go ahead and make the image. Well, I can resize this actually. Resize it to 512 by 512. So even though it's 512 by 512, there's so much blank empty space here that it's still going to appear to be a much lower resolution. So you can use some special textures for testing out how the pixels are flowing and stuff, but I'm quite happy to have things just like eyeballed like this. And you want to make sure your islands are big enough when you do the unwrap, and that's an option that you'll get after you've unwrapped with the Smart UV project. I'll just show you to give you an example. Down here, you've got all these options. So increase the island margin, and it will do you a world of good because it will stop a lot of the issues with painting over things and that, where you paint one area and then it paints another area that's linked, and you don't want any of that shit, so that's what helps. Okay, so I'm gonna try and paint this in a bit of a methodical way because I usually don't do things like that, and I think for brevity and to just be helpful, I'm gonna do it that way this time. Yeah, I'm gonna watch it. Like, I don't want to just assume it's gonna be trash. I might as well give it a try, you know? I wasn't impressed by the trailer, I gotta be honest. So I'm looking at the image that I've got, and I'm trying to get I'm trying to look for the darkest point on the image is what I'm trying to say, and find that color. Hey, B-Slip-B. I generated it using, it's called DALL-E, Mini DALL-E, I think it's called, or DALL-E Mini. It's an AI that will generate images for you. Or I typed like Trump eating a pizza. It was horrific. I typed baby with a beard, and it was also horrific. Like, it's perfect for horror because everything you type in there, it spits out something horrific. I typed in Shrek smoking weed, Shrek kissing donkey. The kissing donkey was weird because Shrek and donkey were like merging into one weird being, which is normal, by the way. Using AI, is it? I've got folder Mid-Journey. What's that? So what I'm doing now, I've found the deepest skin tone, and I'm going to try and go in layers up to the dark, but I will be doing a lot of back and forward with this. Oh, cool. So you want to go from dark to light when you're doing your kind of texture painting, putting in the kind of shadows and then all the way up to the highlights, starting with your base coat. One thing though is that as you get to the kind of lighter colors, you also want to, well, this is just how I work. I also make my brush smaller as I go, and that seems to be what works well for me in this style anyway. I do a bit of hue shifting sometimes, but quite often I nuke all of the colors at different points, so I don't worry too much about it at this point. Another thing to note is I'm using a tablet, but for shading, I usually stick to just adjusting the strength with the pressure rather than adjusting the radius. It feels just better for me when it comes to shading. Right. Now this is going to look a bit weird if I symmetrize it, but I'm going to try it anyway because his body is a bit off center. So I try and just get the basic shape of the thing that I'm trying to make down. Like, we've got an abdomen here. And I might even at some points go back into the model and kind of adjust the geometry to match the stuff that I'm painting. I I quite often do that actually. I don't know if that's exactly a best practice, but it seems to work for me. Okay. And I do jump down to the lower paint layers if the fancy takes me. But for the most part, I'm trying to go light to dark. Dark to light, sorry. See, I don't even know myself. I think it's like so crucial to have a tablet for doing shading. Like the quality of the stuff I was making made an incredible jump as soon as I got a tablet. So if you haven't got one yet, I would really recommend it. Gonna have a neck kind of twisting into this. And he's got this chest ripped open here, but I'm just going to draw the base kind of chest first, and then I'll go on and distort it later on. Well, that's in my personal case, because like the pressure just for shading just seems to help me, and it's really intuitive for me. But I'm sure there's people who've done really awesome stuff. But having said that, I would say that if someone feels like they just can't make things that they like, try a tablet. Well, we have a Discord. Most of the people in my Discord are doing this kind of stuff too, so people are posting on there. Someone could give you a link if anyone's here that wouldn't mind, or I'll drop it to you. As far as other ones, there's the Haunted PS1 Discord. And I'm not sure about any others. Let me give you a link to mine. There you go. See, now I'm backtracking here a bit and going back to darker colors to define some of this out a little bit differently. But it would have been better if I had stuck with it. If I'd done that a bit earlier on, to be honest. But yeah, starting to get there. but it takes me a long time to do anything art-wise, to be honest. At least, I don't know, I feel like I get things to a point where it's doing pretty nicely and I'm enjoying how it's looking, and then I just nuke it and start again or something. But you see, like, I just made the mistake there of trying to make hyper realistic. I've never heard of that person. But no, I can't say that I've ever tried that. I would say that I'm a programmer first and a artist second, but I even cringe to call myself an artist because I don't know, I still got that imposter thing, you know. That sounds cool. Yeah, he is. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna get it up to the normal skin tone that I'm looking for, I guess. Well, there's a few different ways you could do it, I suppose. Like, hang on. One way would be to add some extra bones for the robe, which is probably how I would end up doing it. Just because it's simpler. Or you could add like a cloth modifier to the robe. Maybe some other ways too, but I'm not sure. And don't worry, questions are fine. Nippy nippies. Wait, will I get demonetized for giving him nips? I've been cheating. Give nips. Plain old manly nips, yeah. None of that fancy nip shit, huh? Yeah. Well, what if... Isn't that crazy? Okay. So all of this part is pretty much going to be Plantanian. Hang on, I need another beer. BRB. Hey, D. Addison. Sorry, I just popped away for a beer, so I missed the message when you sent it. This is me playing guitar. I thought it might be. You know what's weird? Because you have a profile picture of Sonic, when I think about you, I think about you as Sonic. Okay. See what I mean? If you retread the shaded ground, let's call it, you can end up spoiling things a bit. That's why I try and not do it that much. Or maybe he's got those deep cuts. See, at this point, maybe I would turn on the radius for like things where it's bit of a flick going on. Although my pressure settings are a bit... You know, if you want a line to get thick and then end thin, say that's the place to do it. But I'm not happy with that, so I'm not keeping it. Yeah, this is Blender. Yeah, I use a Wacom 1. I think it's a medium one, but it might be a small one. I'm not sure, actually. One of the cheaper options. And it doesn't have a screen on it. I just track watching the screen in front of me. Do you Well, I haven't actually done much level design work, to be honest. For the Metal Gear project I am, but that's just boxes right now. But my partner who I'm working on Lake Haven with, he mainly models things in Blender, and he'll go and just export that out as like whole levels pretty much. I mean, Unity editor or whatever game engine you're using is like one of the biggest features of them is that they're a level editor in a sense. That scene view anyway, that's kind of the point, right? And to bring in your stuff together. Yeah, I'll open it and show you BS Slit. But if it was me, I probably would do it in Unity. But yeah, but Galazar, I'm actually... Oh, build assets. So you import them over to Unity and then put it together there. Yeah, if you're talking about like level architecture, maybe I would like to do it all in Blender and then import the level and then have individual objects as separate. But I'm not sure about the like best ways to do that really. Yeah, well, there's a good way to export from Blender to Unity to make sure the scale is all good. I think in my Discord there's a resource about that. What is it makes it? The model has limit. What you do with the colors and reductions if you're painting? So what you could do, you could reduce the... If you're painting on, doesn't it make it too smooth? It depends. Like if you look at some of the models from PS1 and the textures, some of them appear quite smooth. You can, when painting, you know, you can always up here in Blender change the fall off to be just like this, so that way when you're painting you would have more of a very crisp edge, and I do that somewhat for details but not for the shading and stuff. So this is my Metal Gear project. You can move like Snake, you can crawl like a snake, you can look around like a snake. You can do the old punch kick. You can crawl against the walls. You can crouch on the wall. You can go from that to that and all this kind of stuff. I'm going to be using this to make a tutorial about how to make a game inspired by Metal Gear Solid. So I'm not sure where that's going to be hosted yet. Well, actually, the texture that I'm painting on here is 512 by 512, but it's actually closer to 256 by 256. Just to make it convenient in unwrapping, I've made the islands very big, or very spaced apart. But if I squashed this all into one corner, it would be probably 256 by 256, if not under. So my models are like that, as you say. They have the appearance of the PS1 models. Maybe, like, for this model, I don't know, maybe it's slightly bigger if we look at Leon, but I'm not convinced, I'm not entirely sure how many Leon had, but if you look at the density on his chest compared to the density on my guy's chest, it's pretty similar. I think there's actually more on Leon's. His face has way more. His arms have a bit less, and his arms down here have more. So it's pretty close. Right, let's get this head going on. Thanks, man. Yeah, like, you can reduce the colors with the PS1 render pipeline. Right, let's get some of this on. So he goes from quite a dark green. Maybe. Right. So he's got this kind of... Alright, I'm going to turn off the mirroring now. So this will be kind of ripping out of here. Rip and tear. Till it is done. Or something. But yeah, I don't know how many people will want that course to make a game like Metal Gear Solid, but, you know, many people are doing the Resident Evil Silent Hill thing. I know one guy who wants to make a game kind of like Hitman, Metal Gear Solid inspired. And I know another guy who wants to do a mixture between kind of Resident Evil and Metal Gear Solid, like zombie sneaking mechanics and stuff. One of my friends. So hopefully you can get an add-on for that. And it's something that I probably should use. I just don't use it. I have a very specific workflow. I think a lot of people will have advertised a bit. Yeah, that's true. But the more I'm making like the assets and the project for the course, the more I'm wanting to have it as like another project I'm doing alongside my main project, because it's fun, like stealth mechanics and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, could be. Right. Yeah. Killing two birds with one stone. You mean make the course and make it into a course? I mean, into a game. Yeah, it's true. But the course is like it's quite intimidating because it will be targeted at people who are, I guess, maybe more intermediate, because there'll be stuff like state machine implementation, and also behavior trees. The lighting, right now it's on flat, so there's no shadows going on, but I like to paint the shadows or paint the lighting kind of directly onto the things I make. Well, sometimes finite state machines, usually finite, yeah, or hierarchical ones too. Could be hierarchical finite. But I use mainly state machines for controlling characters and stuff like that, and overall controlling the flow of game, like the state that the game is in, and delegating that out to the different entities and stuff. But I use it as a character controller. I always use state machines because they're so much easier to debug. They're like a bit more time consuming to set up, but I can't imagine having like one script or several scripts that like, well, I would say that with state machines, that's better that way than just with if statements. I mean, there's only really if statements. There's variables, there's methods, and there's conditional branching, right? And everything else is just different ways of handling that. But, you know, if you're interested in AI or stuff like that, behavior trees are quite an interesting thing to get into. I'm building a visual state machine for the Metal Gear Solid project of a nice tutorial I found on YouTube. I'm also reading a book about AI right now, which is quite interesting. But the first page, it was like a math primer, and I was like, fuck me. Like, because until now I've mainly just stuck with state machines. The problem is, like, the issue for me is that it's like how the hell to teach in a way that's because this kind of project is so many kind of, it's not that many, but there's going to be a lot of moving parts, and it's like trying to implant it into someone's head, like the best way for it to, the best way for it all to flow together, and how to like get the person to really get the flow. And it's like trying to find the best way to describe things and when to describe things, you know. I really want to be a good teacher of programming and game dev, but it's like hard for me, I would say. Just getting a texture of some leaf that I'm gonna paint on here. Yeah, like it's like the biggest thing with teaching programming in general, because I teach programming one-on-one a little bit, and the hardest thing for me is like where to start, like the very first thing that you should learn, especially if you're in the context of making trying to use it to make a game. GD, wait, what's that? Oh yeah, I like events. I have a video on delegates and events too. Well, thanks, Chris. But like, I have one guy I was teaching. I just did this one lesson with him, and I feel like I scared him away from programming, because after that he lost a lot of confidence, and I felt really bad because I really wasn't trying to be like, I don't know, I was trying to help, and I feel like maybe I made it worse. Gamer to game developer. Oh. So I'm just stenciling on this image. I'm probably going to do it with, let's try it with the overlay. Yeah. Like sometimes it's hard to gauge someone's level, and I don't know, with this guy, I think I thought that he was a bit further along than he was, you know? And then he ended up being quite like sad that, or feeling like he couldn't do it, and I felt really bad because I really think anyone can code. It's just a matter of doing it for a long enough time that you get comfortable. So if you haven't used this stencil feature before, it's awesome. I've got a quick tip video that shows you how to do it, but the basic thing is you set a texture here, and then you go over to the texture panel, go down, and well, just set the mapping to stencil, and then over here you can paint on that thing. And I don't do this for every model, but I'm starting to use it more because it really helps you get some interesting stuff out there. Yeah, like the hardest thing about programming is how many times you fail and have to try again, you know? It's actually more like a plant. Like in the image it was a snake, but for the purposes of our game it's going to be kind of plant-like. Well, yeah, I think you won't go wrong making assets. Well, it's just, the thing is, you got to get used to the logical thinking behind it, and then eventually it'll be kind of natural, and things will be like much faster. You're like, oh, this is probably what's happening. And it's really satisfying when you get those moments where it's like, I probably know how to sort this out, and then you're right, rather than all the times that you're wrong. Yeah, I could use this stem a bit to make some kind of pattern along here. Yeah, the stencil feature is super awesome. I wish I found it sooner. Projection mapping. Are you talking about when unwrapping UVs? Because I do that sometimes. The reason is because we only have the 512 by 512, which is really 256 by 256 once it's all compressed. It doesn't matter how high res it looks here. We've only got a certain amount of pixels to work on, so it kind of just it has to downsize the texture as you're painting on. Oh, I'm not sure about that, Chris. Yeah, true. How does it know to be? Because if you have a look, when you create a new image, you can give it a size, and the default I've got, because the last one I created was 256 by 256. Yeah, it's not the UV map you're sizing, remember. It's the image. The UV will stretch onto any image size. Okay. I might give him some kind of weird eye and see what it looks like. I'm just finding an eye, as you do. Tune. Okay, so let's change this image to there you go. Give it this nice T-Rex eye. I'm just experimenting, by the way. I don't always just paint textures onto everything, but I'm just very curious how this could turn out. Basically, you create a UV map for the projection. One side, yeah. Oh, I see. Oh, I haven't used that before. I'm not actually going to use the whole eye, but I might use parts of it. Just to give it a bit of flavor. What am I doing? Can I set my UV then lay a large resolution? The UV, the UV, I think, doesn't have a sense of size. It just has a aspect ratio, I would assume. So you could put a different one under there. But if you're talking about automatically pixelating like from a higher, I haven't heard that glimpse of us yet, but I've heard people talking about it. Like, what was I saying? Like, sorry, I lost my thought. Like, god damn it, brain. Why is it doing it like this? Oh, wait, I haven't... Wait, what? Oh, if you're talking about just textures like that, then yeah, you could just you could scale them down somehow. I think you can resize it in Blender actually. If you come in here and you go to texture, hang on, in the UV editor, go to image, resize, and then you'll be able to squash it down to whatever you like. I don't know how the quality will be like if you do that, if it's got some particular way of doing that, but oh, here we go. Ah! What happened? Yeah, you wouldn't need to Photoshop it. I don't know, maybe he's more terrifying without the eye. I don't know why it keeps deselecting. Well, I don't want the eye now anyway. Yeah, I was thinking about the chest, but then I was thinking maybe it would be too reminiscent of Resident Evil, you know? Oh, that sounds like something I would do. Yeah, let's go without the eye. Now, let's create some kind of peeling skin effect. Now, I need to be looking at my reference image because I'm kind of eyeballing it. But I shouldn't be. I should be image balling it. I just said ball and I drew balls. Whoops. Now, this is one of my favorite things about low poly or low resolution modeling and painting is trying to add some 3D element to it which wasn't there in the model. So using shading to try and effectively give the impression that there is this 3D-ness to it, but without it actually being there. And it's a big, always a big challenge to get it to work for me. And that's just something I really enjoy about this style. Like I said before, I think even if like my game studio, if we turn into like, even if we had money to hire a lot of people, I wouldn't be like, oh, so let's do something super high fidelity now. I would just double down on this stuff because I just love this style. It's not even just about nostalgia. Like, obviously nostalgia is the thing that gets us back into these kind of style games, but there's a real charm, especially with horror games, in this kind of PlayStation-y kind of style, which I think, and I love that you can still attach emotionally to these games without needing all the high fidelity stuff. It almost looks like he's wearing a flesh suit. But yeah, like, I think some people maybe do the low poly style because they're not the best artists. That's not why I started. I'm not the best artist either, but I think even if I had the skills to do more hyper realistic stuff, I still think this is the style I would pick. Well, my team is just me and one other guy, and we got a few people who help out with a few miscellaneous things too. But it, like, when I started working with someone else on a project, it was like a sigh of relief, honestly. Like, I can't explain how much easier life felt when I had someone working on a project with me, because it's like you log into the project and you see that they've been doing stuff there, and you can like just go around and have a look at the things they're making, and you don't feel like so alone, you know, because I always felt like just totally on my own and, oh, I've got to do this huge thing. But yeah, if you have the opportunity to work with someone, I recommend it. The guy I work with, I just met through this YouTube channel too, and he was doing something that was like, it looks like the kind of thing I wanted to be working on, you know. And we were both working on our own projects, and I was helping him a bit with code, because he's more of a level designer and artist. He's quite new to programming. And then eventually I was just like, shall I just like work with you on this? Because this game is like my jam. This is what I'm all about. And to my surprise, he was like, yeah, I was thinking the same thing. So that was awesome. It's also been very good. Yeah, like Haven coming out soon. Like, it's also been a like huge learning experience and like humbling experience, I guess, because I always had this kind of thing like, I don't know, I want to be like the guy who did this all on my own, you know? And I thought, oh, my idea is like gonna be so cool. Like, it was all like, so self-focused and self-important, to be honest. And it's like working with someone else, and especially because it's like more his vision, it's really opened my eyes to how to work effectively with other people. And I guess I haven't been the perfect partner in crime always. Like, I'm a bit blunt sometimes, but yeah, I'll give you a link to the Discord. You want to hear something cool? I don't know if you guys know it, but if you press Windows key V, you can get your clipboard history. If you know that, then fair enough, but I didn't. And yeah, I just figured that out. Oh, Madeline knew. Yeah, like, like, one thing is that we talked about is like I'm more likely to comment on where someone can improve on something than I am to comment on how good I think something is that someone's made. I kind of assume that the person knows how good it is, if that makes sense. So I usually pick out the flaws in something, but that's also how I prefer people tell me stuff about my stuff, Like, I like it when people don't just say, oh yeah, it's really good, or oh, I hate it. Like, I rather them tell me like the specific things, how I can improve and that kind of thing. Also, Windows Plus, the Order of Night. Ah, interesting. All of these muscles have been destroyed. I was talking about you earlier, Madeline. How you been? All right, see you later, man. But yeah, like, I'd say like it's probably better if it's someone that you've known for a while. Because me and Felix, the guy I work with, we had been talking on Discord for like months and months before we actually decided to start working together. I feel like we already knew each other quite well, I imagine it might be a bit harder if it was someone that you didn't really know. Yeah, that's part of the reason I'm happy that I work on a team now, because I personally was that guy who didn't work well in teams, and didn't want to work in a team, because I just felt like I had my vision. I'm not saying everyone has to do it like this. It's just like, for me, it was nice to give away part of that, Well, I probably won't always stream at the same times. Maybe some days I'll stream a little earlier. Maybe I'll add some more of these like globules, because I quite like the look of those. It's like some tumorous kind of thing. Yeah, it always does. Like, I sometimes, especially like with coding and perfectionism for me, I can sit and try and like refactor some system until it's like I'm just doing it to the point of like there's no need to do it anymore, but I'm still there doing it because it just doesn't, it needs to be exactly how I see it in my head, exactly as clean as I want it to be. And I think a lot of the time you're just being your own enemy with that kind of stuff. Yeah. Well, I've been kind of game deving on and off since I was like, I first got interested when I was around 11 or 12, I guess, like in Flash. I should have done way more than what I have done, but my ADHD also didn't help, although it's not something I can just blame everything on. I only it's also on me. I started with Flash MX 2004 when I was, yeah, around 12, I think. This really looks ballsy. But this is what I love about low poly and low everything painting. Low everything. It looks 3D now. Yeah, that was it. Macromedia Flash MX 2004. That's the one of the beautiful things about low poly, low res for me. I might experiment changing the color of this head a bit. So if you select color in the blending options and then change a color, you can set it to any color you like. Even just like more of this dull look. But I want it to have like a color of warning, and I think yellow is a good warning color. I could be masking this off to do this quicker, but I'm not. Yeah, yellow is like oozy. Yeah, maybe like some pussy kind of parts around, like, maybe on the globules there could be some kind of pussy look. But how to fit it in there? And then it could almost look like some seeds or something. Ugh. Hey, Yoeho? Yoeho? Is that how you say it? I'm sorry. Yoeho? Yoao? I'm sorry. I'm really failing at pronouncing your name, but I'm trying. Genuinely. Right, let's get the rest of this color in. I'm glad you like my stuff, mate. Yo ajo. Yo ajo. Okay. I don't know if you have brought... Oh! Damn. I'm sorry, I don't have the notification switched on. I didn't know if you could integrate it. Hey! Dude. Thank you so much. That's really nice. So, D. Addison just bought me 3 coffees, and I really wasn't expecting that, but thank you so much, dude. I hope that this is helpful. If there's any other videos you would like to see, by the way, let me know and I'll make sure to put it on top of the stack of things to talk about. Yeah, I should set up the notifications though, because it's well, I did have it set up when I used to do Twitch, and it's kind of nice for people. So as you can see, I'm breaking all my rules I set out with and going back and shading things again, but this is just my process and it's rather stupid. My process is like all over the place, to be honest, but I hope you can still glean some kind of sense from it. I always end up with something I'm happy with, usually. Oh, that would be a good one. Yeah, I'll write it down so that I don't forget. It'd be nice to talk about something in a video that's not so technical or like a how-to, but more of an open topic like that. Hey. By the way, on the Buy Me a Coffee website, I'm also doing a podcast kind of thing for the coffee people on I'm not sure when it's going to be yet, but it's about starting up game dev, the struggles of that, and how to keep motivation. So that'll be something you can access as well, just to give you a little something back. Okay, so okay. Now, right now, I want to make this seem a bit more 3D. Too shiny. Okay, I'm actually gonna, I think, smooth this stuff out. I'm gonna pretty much restart with the body because I've done a lot of destructive things to it now. And I need to get it back somewhere I can like it again. But I might start with a darker base color this time, maybe even like black. Oh yeah? Yeah, take care, dude. It was nice to chat with you. Okay. So let's start with a darker base. Turn the strength up. So one little bit of advice I guess I could give about texture painting, if it helped, well, something I follow is don't get too attached to any work you've already done, which is relevant to this situation. If it looks bad or if you think it needs to be different, just start again. Like, try not to have that feeling in your mind like you have to do this quick, it has to be done now. Like, if you're working to some deadline you've set yourself, fair enough. But if you're not happy with something, just start again. And it's the same with like making models. If you make a model and it's shitty and you don't like it, just do it again. Do it again, and do it again, and then eventually it'll be less shitty. And the biggest bit of advice about that I can give is, like, when you make your models, go out into the world and, like, to your friends, or especially friends who are harsh, find your friends who are really open and truthful about their opinion, and tell them and ask them, like, is this shit? Like, how can I improve this? Don't go out looking for praise, but go out looking for people to tell you why the thing you're making isn't good. Because if you can be okay with that, it not being the best, it's not just being okay with it, but like sometimes someone has told me something about something I've been working on, and it's like I literally didn't see the problem until that person pointed it out to me. So if you shelter yourself always from criticism by looking for the people to validate your thing, then you're going to miss out on the opportunity to get better, and you're going to not see the things that other people have seen in your work that could be better. Like, I have a good friend, and a lot of the time when I first started doing this stuff, I would send him pictures of the stuff I was working on. And at the first, I was really hoping that he was going to say, oh, it's really awesome, man. Yeah, it's great. But he didn't usually. He was like, oh, it's okay, but, you know, this looks a bit weird and that looks a bit weird, or just outright insulting it, but in a way that is like totally true. And it was weird because the more and more I kept asking my friend what he thought about my stuff, in the end, he didn't tell me. I mean, in the end, I wasn't looking for praise. I wanted him to tell me how I could improve it. I was like, I just stopped caring about that. And so if you have a friend that you know is always brutally honest about that kind of stuff, like when you ask for an opinion, yeah, that's the person I think you should be asking about your game dev stuff. And being able to actually take what they say and not get offended by it as well. Separating yourself from the art, like, is massive. Well, I think the reason I'm like that is because that's how I want people to be with me, you know? Yeah. Well, if it's... You got to look for an informed opinion when you're getting critique about stuff, I would say. Like, if it's someone who isn't into art or isn't into your specific kind of field of whatever, then maybe they're not the best person. But even people who aren't into the niche that you're into can still be quite good to ask, because sometimes people like that, they will not like something, but they won't be able to exactly tell you why, but they still have a feeling for it, you know, if it's like good or not, I guess. Obviously it's subjective, but you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah. But like, I don't know, just being able to not be the best at something is so amazing as well sometimes. Not just about art, but just about like anything in life, like being able to be like allowing yourself not to be the best and being okay with that is something I always had a complex about, judging myself, comparing myself to other people and stuff. And I think we all compare ourselves a bit, but sometimes it can like take away your feelings of worth about yourself if you feel like other people are better than you somehow. Fundamentally, none of us are better than the other. Maybe they can be in different ways, but when you boil it down to the lowest kind of level, we're all in the same predicament here. We're all gonna leave the same way. And to think about yeah, but I think like if you can look at someone who has something you want and use that kind of desire to be similar to them in that way, that can be helpful if you use it to push you forward. But if it becomes something that just stagnates in you or turns into jealousy, something that you act out against or treat people differently because of how you feel about them or something, then obviously that's not good. But if you use it like a tool to appreciate, like, this person is doing something, I would like to do like something like they're doing, I would like to have a body like them, or I don't know, I would like to be as smart as that person, then in a much better mindset, I think. Yeah, me too. One of really important things as well for me was like one of the things for me was like how to say it, like a lot of the time we want to be better so that other people will like us more, you know? Or like, I want people to admire my body, for example. It would be nice if people looked at me and thought, oh, he looks nice, you know? Just something like innocent like that. But sometimes by looking better than people, you might actually attract more jealousy from others than you do appreciation. And like one thing I practice doing sometimes now, which is really like the reaction you get from some people when you do this is really like bizarre, because they are really not used to it. But if someone says something bad about you or something, you agree with them like wholeheartedly. If you think it's something that's true that they said, you don't defend yourself. You say, yeah, you're right, I absolutely suck in that way, and I wish I weren't like that, or, you know, I wish that I could be better in that way. But and like not being like against this person, but just accepting what I say and just like being like, yeah, you're probably right. And like it really takes some people by surprise. But the most amazing thing I find, it's like when we all have this big shield around us, this social kind of barrier that we're using to protect our perceived identity from the world. And if you show that you're vulnerable and show that you're less than someone you're talking to, and allow them to be better than you, allow them to be more dominant, allow them to like be the one who says the last thing, like it can be beautiful. And not just from a way of like, oh, I have the upper hand now, I win this because I am the bigger man. It's not like that. It's like you just accept that you're not you don't have to be the best, and you don't have to be the one who's winning every argument or anything like that. Sorry, that got very pompous and self-indulgent pretty fast. Nippy. Don't worry, YouTube, it's a guy, so this is technically okay. Okay. Maybe I could have a bit of separation between this peck and like this flap, whatever you're gonna call it. But how to do that? But really, like, I don't know if what it was that made me like that, but I was always very like self-conscious, I guess. And I guess I still am to some extent. Not like I'm evolved into the perfect person or something. But it's not like that at all, in fact. But I don't know, being able to let someone make you wrong. I've got a good story to tell about that, actually. So this is I can't remember if it's a Taoist or a Buddhist thing, but I think it was a Japanese koan from Buddhism if I'm right. So there's this old man. He's like a monk, a holy man. He lives he lives in this village where this family lives with their daughter, and she's like just barely of age, let's say. And the old man, one day the parents of this Zen master come to this old man's house and say, our daughter says that you got her pregnant. What do you have to say about this? And he just says, is that so? And that's all he says. And so then a few months later, they come to the master's house with a baby, and they say, right, this is your doing, so now you can be the one to look after this child. And the master just turns to them and says, oh, is that so? He takes the baby in, he raises it for the next 1.5 years, and then after a while, the parents come with the daughter and they say, we're so sorry, we found out it wasn't you, it was the blacksmith's boy. She lied to us. We want to take the baby back. The man hands them back the baby and just says, is that so? I love that story. It's like we can get so wrapped up in all the little things that can get put upon us in life. But if you're accepting, nothing is a problem. You can have challenges, but things are only a problem once you have some kind of resistance against that thing in your mind. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, Chris. I can totally get that kind of headspace you must be in. Yeah. Thanks. Don't know if any of you guys play those kind of games, but this is from The Curse of Monkey Island, one of my favorite point and click adventure games of all time. It's one of my other loves when it comes to game genres. Graphic adventure games of the 90s were like so like anti normal people because I don't know, it was just kind of niche even at the time, I think, but man, I love those games. How do I make this more threatening? Gabriel Knight. Hang on. Let me Google that. I don't think I have. Oh. Oh, I think I saw this on a list that I was looking at the other day. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at the older pictures. That looks like something I would be into. Check it out. By the way, what's your favorite Sonic game? Okay. Interesting. I'm actually playing through Sonic Adventure again, the Dreamcast version. I'm also playing Sonic and Knuckles. My daughter is really into Sonic at the moment, so one thing I think about my art style, a tip I could give as well, now I'm thinking about it, is that I think that it's better for me, like when you're trying to do this stuff, shading and, well, just this style I'm painting, if you want to do something similar, try not to think about, oh, how I'll draw this shape and then that's the shape of it. Like, don't draw this and then draw, like, try and think of it in terms of shading. Try and get the shading to make most of the work for the shape. Which is ironic because I just drew these little bits on, but that's a edge case. And I like to do little highlights on certain things if I think they should be a bit shiny or something. And then I might even go down to the pixel level and just do individual pixels for that, like I am here. I haven't played Generations actually. But think about also the depth that's going on in your model, because like under this peck it's quite dark, so maybe there wouldn't be a highlight here because this like one is kind of wrapping under that, but then maybe just a little bit of highlight here. That's such bullshit. That used to be true. Like, I spent a few years basically just speedrunning Resident Evil 2. And that was my entire life. Oh, that's awesome. That's really nice to hear. Thanks, dude. I've only I've been doing it about 2 years at this point. But if you like this kind of stuff, there's another channel you should check out called Micro Games. He does similar stuff to me, but his stuff is a bit more. He does like even animations and stuff on his channel. It's cool. He's a bit more. Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Mike is the guy I'm doing the podcast on the coffee, Buy Me a Coffee app. We've been trying to do something like together for ages. But I guess the Buy Me a Coffee thing will also be released just normally on YouTube after a little while too. Yeah, I love Mike. Skinwalker Hunt. What's that? Oh, I've been playing Deep Fear. What? Not sure. What the fuck? You want to hear something weird? I've got a project that I called that. Look, Deep Fear. I'll show you it. That's creepy. Skinwalker Hunt. Let me just Google that quick. Horror themed fun. Oh, I think I've seen stuff about that game. Alright, I'm looking up Deep Fear. Oh, you know what? I've seen this project before. I mean, I've seen this game before, so I must have subconsciously shoved that in my brain. Mine is like a low poly Subnautica kind of thing. At least that's what I want it to be. Okay. Ooh, maybe some creep eyes. Sometimes what I like to do is find, well, I don't intentionally do it, but I see some artifact or something in the thing I've made. Like I just saw this highlight here and I thought, and I kind of envisioned it like, oh, what if it's like some kind of fold in the middle, and then kind of working with the things that you put down by accident. Doesn't always pay off, but sometimes it's led to cool things. Like now I'm thinking maybe there's kind of a ribcage kind of design. I shall say hello in... Hey, it's funny because I was just talking about Mike. How you doing? And now the more I'm seeing it, the more I'm thinking that this thing is connected to this thing up here. Ah. It's a good time for me to be bigging him up then, I suppose. Okay. Ooh. I don't know why, but he kind of... This shape I'm making kind of reminds me of in Final Fantasy IX. Yeah, I can tell how hard he must work, judging by like some of his content. Like what I like about Mike as well is like he seems very like he's just doing it for the love, you know? You can tell, like, you can't fake the kind of passion that guy has. And it's funny because I think oh, yeah, I just watched that the other day actually for the first time. I was very impressed. I was like, this is like some fucking full movie or something. Like, how does he have the time to make that? And then I realized he probably doesn't. He probably just kicks his butt and does it. Yeah, I've got this, you know, buy me a coffee thing going. I'm not sure about Subscribe Star. Like, what's the kind of, how does it compare to, for example, Patreon and stuff like that? Yeah, my problem is that I find it difficult to work on more than one thing at once, which is why my predicament at the minute is hard. This is Deep Fear. Let me show you. There's a little trailer or cutscene at the start. Okay. And then, yeah, it was inspired by the intro to Metal Gear Solid, you're right. And you can also, let me just turn on the player's light. Okay, and what is the minimum? Where's this playable director? Hang on. Why can't I swim? Let me just disable this. Hang on. I can't remember how I told the player to move or not. $150. Oh, I need to disable this subcam, I think. Yeah, so... Wait, hang on. Wait, what the fuck happened? Whoa. So... I think the pivot point of the player's a bit off. But you can... go in here. Where is it? Hang on. Whoa. Where's the room? Oh, it's too broken to show you this properly now. I set up a bunch of stuff for the cutscene, and so the inside is like... Wait, I can just show you in the editor. So there's like I'm making a gameplay channel, and this is like the inside of my virtual desk, and the gameplay channel is centered about this character going through he's in a submarine and he's finding old games and playing them to pass the time. But I'm very, very not a long way into that. I heard some people complaining about Patreon. Like, I heard some people got just kicked out of there. Thanks, Galazar. But I think it would be like there wouldn't actually be that much of the cutscenes and stuff. It won't be like to the level that Mike does things, but it would be more like that's the setting, and then I call it like game talk throughs. It's like kind of like, it's not a let's play because it's scripted, but it's kind of longer than like a review, and you review elements of the game while you're talking, but it's more about like you go through the entire game and talk about it, and then you edit it and cut it down and just try and make it funny, I guess. A bit like Ross's Game Dungeon, if anyone's heard of that. I also like Civi's Game Dungeon, but that's kind of a bit of a different format. I literally planning to start it because my favorite content creator doesn't make videos fast enough. So I was like, I just want to see more of this stuff. So instead, I'll just make it. Diablo 1 by Dark Law. I will Well, maybe not that long. But it depends, like, it won't be my priority, but it would be nice. I wanted to do some, like, just really old games, like DOS games, maybe even, you know. Philosophy, logic, and episteme. What is that last thing? Well, I'll let you know when I'm a bit further into it. Study of knowledge. That sounds almost like an oxymoron, if I'm using that word right. Yeah, Galazar. Which... Wait. Wow, wait, what? Oh, you're doing that on your YouTube channel, you mean? Interesting. I kind of want his arms to hang lower, but I think I'll do that when I animate him. That's cool. Yeah, I'm more of a programmer than an artist, I would say. I've been doing programming longer. You do programming too? Right. Oh, cool. I did a bit of MySQL when I was like a kid because my dad told me it's something that I should learn. But I haven't done any database stuff in a long time. I know C# and a bit of C++ and Java, because if you know C#, you basically know Java, right? Yeah. Although, you know, you got your... Like, I don't know enough about manual memory manipulation and stuff like that to consider myself anywhere close to being proficient in, like, C++, for example. That's what I like about higher level languages, like C# and Java and stuff, because all of that crap is just... you don't have to think about it. Which is one of the things that puts me off Unreal, because C++ to me seems like such a slow language to iterate on when you're like designing gameplay and stuff. And I know like blueprints, yeah, but still, like, although I think, to be fair, like Unreal, sorry, has like a built-in garbage collector for C++, which it doesn't have by default. But I think, honestly, I think that visual scripting is so crucial for certain aspects of gameplay, like dialogue systems, for example. There's many things that it makes sense to visualize as a visual graph and not have to just do it in your head, but have it on the screen. For Lake Haven, yeah, Mike sent me a message the other day just like, I hate Unreal Engine. Like, in Lake Haven, I use visual scripting for some specific cases. I use it for the state machine, for the inventory, like any place where you want to use a state machine, a behavior tree, anything like that. I think it just makes sense to have it something that you can display visually. You can still hook into code, especially as someone with quite severe ADHD like myself. Like, being able to visualize things and not have to keep all of the variables in my head constantly is a huge boon. And it makes like changing things like in your project, if you want to iterate fast, visual scripting is great. And I'm not talking about just blueprints, although personally I think blueprints are excellent. I'm talking about any form of visual scripting. Like, I'm making a visual scripting tool so that I can just see my state machine states running. They're implemented in code, but it's just so that I can see how everything's connected at runtime. And that kind of thing can be so like handy. Like, if you ever built a state machine with more than like a handful of states, it gets extremely hard to reason about as you're clicking through the different states and going into each layer and stuff. And another thing that's cool about using visual scripting is you can kind of, yeah, so dialogue trees, state machines, if you're using anything like sequences of events that should happen after each other, like I use it for the puzzle interactions in Lake Haven. Every puzzle interaction is represented by a state machine, and in each state there's like a long line of events that happen one after the other sequentially, and I don't have to go and program some huge amount of coroutines following each other. I just make these little blocks of code in the visual scripting. For example, there's one that says fade to black, there's one that says change to camera, there's one that says start camera shake for 3 seconds, and then after that print this text on the screen. And it's something that you can just go in and drag around and stick it all together, and it just works. I'd be happy to. I can talk about state machines all day. I have a video on it, actually. Might be helpful. Let me show you something from Lake Haven. I'll hide the rest of it because my partner probably wouldn't want me just showing the inside of the game, but I'm happy to show you what I use some visual state machines for. I'll show you. And that's not to say that that's the only thing I use. I actually counted, and in our game there's 15,000 lines of code, which isn't add-ons or packages. I quite often use the visual scripting and code together, so the code will have the complicated like functions and stuff, and then the visual scripting will just call it. So the visual scripting I use just to organize when things happen and which order things happen, and then the underneath the code is what does the heavy lifting. It's also more optimal that way. Well, more optimal than if you did everything in visual scripting. That's definitely not the best way to go. Oh, I should have been symmetrizing this. You know what, I might even... I'm not sure, actually. I was thinking I could turn his other arm into like a total plant kind of thing, but I'm not sure. Oh, I just realized, though, I really, really, really want to give him a vein on his muscly arm. Like, look at this. That just gave me the idea. Yeah, you can tell Mike if you would like to talk through state machines. I'd be happy to help him. That's true. The problem is that this side is the one that has the hand. See, I'm just putting the light on the top and then what I consider to be the shadowy part underneath to try and give it a bit of depth. However, I'm not happy with it. I'm gonna do it again. Right. Oh. So, this is a state machine, a visual state machine that I use for everything to do with UI in Lake Haven. So everything starts out in an idle state. These lines are just the transitions between them, between the different states. Idle is basically blank. It's just a state where you're waiting to go somewhere else. And then this just listens for input on the controller, and it checks a bunch of things to say, can I go into the item menu? Like, it checks if you actually have any item. Checks a whole bunch of things. It checks if the player has possession of the pawn. And then it calls back to open inventory, which is a C# class. Then inside this we have a substate machine which handles all the inventory. We've got your menu navigation, having a context menu, and the menu navigation is probably the biggest state. It looks a bit tricky, but it's really not that much. And yeah, it's it's so easy. If I want to change something, or if something's not working in my inventory, I know where to go, because I go to the state. Oh, something's wrong with the context menu. I go into the context menu state and I think, what things, in what order is this stuff being executed, and where is the problem? And it just makes debugging and stuff quite fine. You've got one for the pause screen. And another good thing about this is if I'm in the inventory, I can't pause the game. Remember, it didn't start this big, it just slowly grew that big. Like if I'm in the inventory, I didn't want to be able to pause the game because it's kind of already paused because you're in inventory. So that's its own separate state. I can't open the file menu to read documents if I'm in the inventory because I don't want that ability. I want you to leave the inventory and then open the file menu because it stops things overlapping on each other, you know? If I'm in a cutscene, I don't want to be able to open the inventory. So whenever you go into a cutscene, there's an event that's triggered and it sends you into this state. That's the beauty of state machines, is how you have to only the current state that you're in is going to be worked on. And the only reason I do this in a visual scripter, because I have a state machine implementation in the game too, like a purely code-based one. The reason I use the visual one is so that I can see it like this and understand it. Because think about it, each one of these is a state. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So all of those things, imagine just having to dig into different depths in the code to find how everything's connected. Every time you want to change something, you have to recompile. You have to reload the assembly, you know, as well, which makes it slower. Anyway. However, one thing I will say is that bolts, which is what I've had to use for Lake Haven, is buggy as shit. And I've had to rebuild it from source actually to fix a bug that wasn't fixed in years. So I'm not arguing that Unity's implementation of visual scripting is good. I'm just arguing that the concept of visualizing code can be helpful. Yeah. Yeah. Enjoy your dinner. See you later, man. I was thinking at some point of doing this challenge where I would make a monster every day for a while, just to improve a bit and for fun and them views, obviously. Yeah. Maybe I could do it with Mike if he's would have the time for something like that. I'm always thinking of things I could do with Mike. We could both be given like a set of parameters, like the thing that we have to make the creature out of, and then we could compare the kind of things we did. Yeah. Okay. Well, now is probably the best time to do it since it's the summer. I don't know why my other button isn't working here. Yeah. I wasn't thinking necessarily live stream, like maybe it would be shorter videos, but then again, I don't know. I really don't know. No. We should just decide it and then Mike would be like, oh, I guess I'm doing that then. Yeah, I like making monsters too. Okay, well, it's getting to the point where I'm starting to shut up, so maybe that's a sign that I should stop the stream. You're welcome, dude. I guess the next stream I will do will be carrying on with this. Oh god, I didn't even save this texture yet. At least he should make a good thumbnail for the next one. Okay. So, let's have a look compared to the other picture, like directly. It's not bad. I feel like I've taken it somewhere nice. Okay, so thanks for hanging out. Thanks again for the coffees from D. Addison. It was really nice. They said, worth it just from watching you work and hearing your stories. I learned a lot and joined the Discord. Thank you, dude. So it's called Dali Mini, I think. I searched half man, half snake. Yeah, it's pretty good. Anyway, I'll speak to you guys later. Give my regards to Mike. Yeah. That's where I heard about it too. And I'll speak to you guys later. Bye bye.